basketball. That after the players voted to resume the postseason. Clippers head coach Doc Rivers talked about how excited his players are to get back on the court, saying, quote, "They're really looking forward to it. Yesterday was a very difficult day, though. Like, their emotions were all over the place. They thought it was over. It was just a really tough day for all of them." The irony, considering the Clippers were one of two teams who voted to boycott the remainder of the season. But Brandon, I'll start with you. What was your reaction to what Doc Rivers had to say?
You know, I just thought about the locker room and in my journey through the NFL. And one of the things that I had to learn, and it took me probably 5 to 6 years to get this, was every guy is different. You know, every guy approaches success differently, failure differently, and even this situation, we've never dealt with this before. Not us as media members, athletes have never done with this. So we don't know how these guys are going to respond. But I do know how we're all trained. And I think it's a microcosm of society. Like, we're all trained to stay in this space of peak performance. So guys going from not playing to playing, they're actually trained for this moment to be able to eliminate distractions and move forward. Now, how is everyone going to deal with it? I don't know. We saw this play out with Paul George being in the bubble. So I really believe that we're going to have to take it case by case, guy by guy, but they're trained for this moment. You have to think about that. No matter what's going on off the court, with your relationships, your family leading up to the game, after the game, you know, what's going on with your body. We literally train every single day to stay in this space of peak performance. You need to be right here to unlock your full potential as an athlete. So seeing these guys go from not playing to playing in this moment, I truly believe we're going to see the ones who are mentally strong, mentally tough, rise to the top.
Well, Brandon, I want to kick something back to you, because when I saw Doc's comments, I thought about Paul George and his comments on what he's been struggling with. But before I ask you the question, I just kind of want to debunk something you hear, not only from some fans, but some commentators, which is, man, you're rich and you're famous, quit whining. You're at a resort, quit. That shows such a fundamental misunderstanding of not only how mental health works, but how the human condition works. You normalize your circumstances. So, like, there are folks who the only thing they want in the world is air conditioning in their home. They feel like, man, if I could just have AC, everything would be so much better. And they get it. And 6 months later, guess what? There is something else they need, because they've normalized the fact that this is what they have. And so I say that to say this. I'm not saying money doesn't solve an immense amount of issues, but these NBA guys went into the bubble rich and famous. So being rich and famous doesn't affect their mental condition while they're there, because that's been normalized. And nothing that's happened in 2020 is normal for any of us. So these guys, they're dealing with all the issues all of us are dealing with in 2020, and they're removed from their family, and they're seeing broadcasts on television and on their phones, brutality against people that look a hell of a lot like them, and they're seeing the running commentary of folks confirming, we actually don't care about you as people. And all of that.
And Nick,
yeah, please.
And that's why we're seeing these guys make this decision, because we're normalizing putting these guys on a pedestal and saying that you're not human, that you are superhuman. And we can celebrate you when you play, but we can't celebrate you when someone gets gunned down in your community. Like, that's the problem. And that's where I believe a lot of these guys in all sports, and women in all sports, feel almost guilty for playing right now, because we can celebrate them on the court. We can celebrate Odell Beckham Jr. when he catch a touchdown, but can we celebrate and march with him and pick them up when someone's being brutally beaten in the street, or their knee is on their neck? And I think that's the issue that a lot of these guys are facing right now, and that's why the Clippers and the Lakers walked out the way they did.
Brandon, in your athletic history, was a coach ever an influence on your mindset if you could have gone either way? Because I think we're in uncharted territory here, obviously. It's very emotional, and it's been a stressful time for everyone in the bubble. And when you try to look at some historical precedent, there's examples on both sides, right? So like after Kobe's tragic passing, Damian Lillard came out and scored 48 points, but Melo couldn't play. And we've seen like Brett Favre's father die and had an amazing game. We saw Russ go 20-20-20 after Nipsey was murdered. So I think that Doc Rivers, in the leadership position that he has had, not only in the bubble, but you know, dating back to how he handled Donald Sterling and galvanizing the Clippers team. So I guess the question I have to you is, what role does Doc Rivers play in supporting his players?
It's everything. And this is what we're going, this is the moment we're going to see leadership rise to the top. Go back to 2016, we talked about it yesterday. Cap takes a knee for the very first time. I walk into the facility, I'm angry, I'm pissed off, I'm confused, I don't know what to say. I pull out my phone, I'm listening to all these reports and reading all these reports. I go into Coach Todd Bowles' office and I'm saying, Coach, what are we going to do? And I'm almost so passionate that I'm yelling at him, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Now, mind you, this is the head coach of our team, and he's a black man. And he sits me down and he says, Brandon, the power is in the position, all right? So let's educate ourselves first before we make any rash decisions, before we react and not respond. What Coach Bowles did after that, this was displayed throughout the entire year. What our team did, we were one, we were unified because of how Todd Bowles set the tempo from day one. He came in that meeting room and said, this is what we're going to do. And we respected it because it came from a man that we respected, a man that understood where we stood. So I go back to that moment and just think about how amazing Coach Bowles handled that. Because we have Nick Mangold, Ryan Fitzpatrick, we had Darrell Revis, Antonio Cromartie, Eric Decker, I said him already. We all sat together in a hot tub and talked about how do we come together. I asked Nick, I said, Nick, do you not understand that these things are happening in our community? Nick said, Brandon, I've never experienced it, but I'm willing to listen. I said, Nick, why are you so passionate about the men and women who serve? Like, this is what you do. Your foundation is built around it. And he explained to me why. And I was able to listen to him because I respected him as my teammate and because he listened to me. And our team, because of that moment that Coach Bowles gave us, we were able to move forward unified. So I think this is what we're seeing in basketball. We're not seeing this in football right now in the NFL, which we need to figure this out, because if this continues to happen, and it will, what are we going to do as football players? We just saw this yesterday. Only 9 out of the 32 teams did something. When are we going to unify? When are we going to come together? The NBA is setting the example and the standard for us right now.
And it also speaks to, and I'll be very quick here, this is one of the reasons when we talk about the need for the coaching ranks and the executive ranks to look somewhat similar to the player ranks. That's right. That's not just something you want to do because it's the right thing, but because it has a tangible, real effect on your ability to perform. The NBA, Nate McMillan just got fired. The NBA, an overwhelmingly black league. Alvin Gentry fired, Nate McMillan fired. I think we're down to 5 black head coaches. Doc's one of them, though. We also know in the NFL, obviously, minority head coaches has been not only a major issue for years, but it seems to be going in the wrong direction instead of in the right direction. When you're trying to reach people, not just as athletes, but as people, as a leader, shared experiences are